Hey guys, so today we're going to be talking about the rise of the Roman Empire. And our central question is what social and political factors contributed to the transformation of Rome from a republic to an empire? So let's analyze this picture. We can all tell, hopefully, that this is the assassination of Julius Caesar. As you can see, the republic, the Senate, is grouped around in a mob, and this is a picture of the assassination. So the Roman expansion. In 270 BC, Rome conquers all of Italy. Diplomacy and efficient armies are made possible because they have the land, so now they just have to take it and they can use it. So the Legion. The Legion consists of 5,000 men. It's kind of a group from the army, but it's not the total army, and it mostly is comprised of citizen soldiers with their own weapons, so none of this is given out by the government, and they're fought out of their pay, out of their debt. There are lots of rewards if you win, but then there are also very harsh punishments if you disobeyed or if you lost. They valued loyalty and courage. Treatment of conquered people. The Romans actually treated the people with justice, so they were prisoners of war, basically, and they were treated very kindly and nicely. They acknowledged Roman leaders, so they knew that they were there and they were actually nice to them. They paid taxes and also sent soldiers. They let them keep their customs, their culture, monies, everything, but they just had to support Rome, because if Rome took in prisoners of war until the end of time, why would they want to stay there? What would they gain? Well, now they can gain that they get to keep their own culture and environment and just transfer it over to Rome, a bigger and more powerful area. The Roman soldiers posted throughout the empire and military roads linked provinces because this ensured that Rome was safe for free travel everywhere. Winning of an empire. After conquering Italy, they began to conquer areas around the Mediterranean Sea. And this expansion leads to conflict with Carthage. If you don't know, Carthage is a Phoenician city-state in northern Africa, and it's one of the most powerful trading cities in the Mediterranean Sea. And the result of the conflict is a Punic War. And they had the war because Rome wanted to expand into the Mediterranean, but Carthage wouldn't let them, and this created war. Punic War readings. In your textbooks, read I think you can do this if you want. Don't really know what to do, but have fun with it. Okay, so the title of events, Punic Wars. The problems or goal to control the trade in the Mediterranean. You can do this if you want because it will help you, but I'm not going to force you to do it. So just key events, just know these. Rome wins Sicily, Corsica, and Sardinia. 2. Hannibal and army attacked Rome from north. The Rome attacked Carthage, and Hannibal is defeated in Carthage. 3. Rome sacks and burns Carthage, and they pour salt on the land. The outcome is Rome gains control over the Mediterranean. And then what I said before about you can do it or not, you can talk about the lesson with others to make sure you totally understand it. The Punic Wars. First one. Rome defeats Carthage, gains Sicily, Corsica, and Sardinia. And this is just a little map that shows where the Roman Empire won and what they won. The second war. Hannibal leads army with war elephants from Spain across the mountains, through France, and over the Alps into northern Italy. At sunrise, the Romans expect to invade by the sea and south. They win all but 2 battles, but fails to capture Rome. Rome sends army to attack Carthage. Hannibal goes to Carthage to defend homeland, but he is defeated. Carthage must give up all lands except in Africa. And this is just This is a map of how it really played out. As you can see, the arrows are corresponding with the key. The Third Punic War. This is where Rome completely annihilates Carthage. Carthage has nothing left. They kill or enslave survivors, and as I said before, they were nice to prisoners of war, but it's not one of those cases. These people were treated as prisoners, basically, mean prisoners, and they were treated as enemies of the state. They poured salt over the land so that nothing could ever grow again. And this is really where Rome adopted imperialism, because they wanted to establish a political and economic control over foreign lands and people. Because of the Punic Wars, they knew if they had access to all the other land, they could win everybody. They could win everyone's land, everyone's resources, everything. And the result of this brings a new class of wealthy Romans, and they build large estates who are worked by slaves, and this is the first really present form of slavery in the Roman Empire. So this is the Roman Empire from the beginning of the Punic Wars to after all of the land that they won. The social problems in Rome. The Latufias, which were the largest states, hurt small farmers because they couldn't compete, so they couldn't sell their products. They fell into debt and they were forced to sell their land, so their family had nowhere to go. The farmers moved to Rome, and they joined the unemployed, restless mob already there. The gap between the rich and poor widens, and riots begin. And this is really the decline of the Roman Republic, because the people are not happy. The reforms of the Gracchus brothers. They were elected tribunes. They attempted to pass reforms to help the poor, because they knew if they could get the help of the poor and really secure the poor, using them to secure their help, and they can get liberty. So Tiberius, in 133 BCE, he asked Senate to distribute land to poor farmers, but he was not successful. Gaius, which was 10 years later in 1023 BCE, he carries out brothers' reforms and more, and he uses the public funds to buy grain to feed the poor. And this was very important because it allowed the poor people to have say. It allowed them, this was the first time that they were really recognized. Someone really stood up for them. The eruption of revolt and civil war. As shown in the last slide right here, they were trying to help the poor, and this upset the rich people because they didn't like just them standing up for the poor people, because the rich people thought that they had a rule over all of them, and now they don't. The result of this was civil war everywhere. Everywhere in the streets, people were being killed and territories were being taken. And now, amidst the chaos, Julius Caesar emerges. Julius Caesar, we all know who he is, but just to go into more detail, he was a military commander and he dominated politics with his other general, Pompey. He leaves Rome to conquer France, well, modern-day France. But Pompey turns against him and persuades Senate to order Caesar home without his army, but Caesar refuses. He leads his army across the Rubonic River to Rome. He crushes Pompey and stops the rebellions along the Mediterranean. The Senate appoints him dictator for life. They did this because they knew he showed them that he could really get things done without the approval of other people. He knew that if he wanted to get something done, he could do it. So he wasn't scared of anything. And that made him a good leader. The assassination of Caesar. The enemies feared him, declaring himself as king to Rome because he was already dictator for life. Why not go further? People thought, well, the Senate thought that to save the Republic, they would kill Julius Caesar. But this just plunges Rome back into civil war. And if you're still confused on all of this, you can watch John Green's crash course on this, because I watched this last year for the AP test and it really helps me. Mark Antony, who was a friend of Caesar, and Octavian, the grandnephew, struggle for power. And they were a part of the three leaders. I don't remember what it's called. the 3 leaders who had complete rule over Rome. But Octavian wins, and his power becomes the significance of the end of the 500-year-old republic and emergence of the Roman Empire. This is another picture of his assassination. As you can see, the Senate is turning against Julius Caesar. The military officers in northern France rose to power because he led his army into Italy against the Senate's wishes, pushing into Rome's civil war. It was against the law to enter military into Roman lands without the approval of the Senate. But Pompey defeated his opponent and declared himself dictator on February 49 BC. Contributions of Rome. He took control of Egypt, North Africa, and parts of Spain. They declared Cleopatra regent of Egypt. The 365-day calendar, which is still in use today, created an empire and created a strong central government. Caesar's reform. Programs of public works were to employ the jobless because he knew if he could get in good terms with the poor and the lower class, everyone would love him. He introduces the Julian calendar, which is a 365-day calendar. And so the tyrantcy came about also. You were only meant to serve 1-year term, but Caesar eventually declared himself dictator for life, so he could serve for the rest of his life no matter what. He was the first leader to be on coinage, and he usually reserved Roman idols and gods because he believed he was the god. He created a cult because he wanted to preserve the republic, and that's also why the Senate assassinated him. The aftermath of his death was the end of the Roman Republic, and aristocrats were thought to be involved with the plot by the Roman people, but no one really knows. The lower classes were extremely upset because their leader, who fought for them and defended them, was dead. Now they had no one. This is just the essential question now. Was it worth it to end the Roman Republic and create a mass chaos and extreme bitterness, really, because the people didn't like who was ruling them? So now what are you to do? That's the end. I hope you enjoyed. If you have more questions, go look at John Green's crash course. It really helps.